My mother thinks Grandma's being scammed by online predators. She's about to find out Grandma is the predator. My mother waved printed Discord screenshots at me in Grandma's living room, screaming about elder abuse, while my dad sat there checking his phone because his guild started playing in 20 minutes. She kept shouting that teaching an 80-year-old woman violent video games was destroying her mind, while Dad muttered about missing his game for this nonsense. This whole thing started 8 months ago when Grandma kept staring at walls after Grandpa died, so I brought over my old gaming laptop and showed her this fantasy game in hopes that watching me play would make her feel a little better. My dad actually played the game religiously and is the ones who introduced me to it, though he'd never admitted at work. Grandma's eyes focused for the first time in weeks when she saw the spell effects and asked if she could make the fire bigger. Within 3 days, she was running dungeons on her own and asking me questions about which abilities to pick that I had to Google because she'd already surpassed my casual knowledge. After a month, she was teaching me secret tricks I didn't know existed, and she'd chosen the username Death by Knitting and joined a guild without telling me, though she mentioned making friends who didn't constantly ask about her cholesterol levels. Then my mother discovered Grandma wearing a headset shouting, "Tank the boss properly, or I'll shove my cane somewhere extremely uncomfortable," at her monitor during one of the hardest battles in the game. She called me screaming that I'd turned her mother-in-law into a gambling addict because online games were just slot machines with dragons, and that I was destroying an old woman's golden years. She tried canceling Grandma's internet, but Grandma had already switched everything into her own name with two-factor authentication after her guild warned her about family members controlling elderly gamers. My mother attempted to ban me from visiting, but Grandma said if anyone was getting banned, it would be the person interrupting her game schedule, which ran Tuesday through Thursday with optional weekends. She called Grandma's doctor claiming dementia because Grandma kept talking about killing dragons with friends, but the doctor said her cognitive scores had actually improved since gaming started, and maybe my mother needed a hobby. My mother installed parental controls during Thanksgiving, but Grandma had them removed within an hour after her guild's IT guy walked her through bypassing family restrictions, which was apparently common. My dad kept playing his own character, pretending nothing was happening even though I saw Death by Knitting beating everyone's scores in his game, but he never mentioned it, probably because being outlaid by your mother was embarrassing. My mother started showing up during game times, making noise and trying to disconnect the router until Grandma changed the Wi-Fi password and threatened to call the cops for trespassing if she interrupted another boss fight. When my mother discovered Grandma spent $3,000 on a gaming setup, including a mechanical keyboard and monitor that cost more than my rent, plus a chair that looked like it belonged in a spaceship, she went ballistic. She scheduled this intervention after learning Grandma joined a competitive team with commitments 4 nights a week, which was clearly exploitation of the elderly. My mother started her prepared speech about cognitive decline, but the front door slammed and Grandma walked in wearing a hoodie that said, "I paused my game to be here," looking absolutely furious. She looked at my mother and said, "Helen, if you interrupt my raid time one more time, I'm reporting you for harassment to actual authorities, not whatever Facebook group gave you this intervention idea." My mother tried continuing, but Grandma pulled out her phone showing bank deposits from tournament winnings totaling $8,000 over 4 months. She looked directly at my dad and said, "By the way, sweetie, I know you're Big Tank Energy 42 and your rotation is absolute garbage, which is why your guild can't clear mythic content," while his face froze in terror. Grandma opened her laptop explaining she'd been recruited by a professional esports organization as a strategic consultant because her approach to healing was revolutionary. My dad started to speak, but Grandma pointed at the screen and said, "Oh look, you're online. Want to settle this with a duel?" And his character was standing right there because he'd been logged in on his phone the whole time. She challenged him to a fight while my mother stood frozen, clutching her intervention papers. The duel lasted 37 seconds with Grandma's priest obliterating Dad's warrior while she narrated every mistake. Then she turned to my mother and said, "Your husband has played this game for 6 years and just lost to an 80-year-old woman who learned everything from YouTube, so maybe worry less about exploitation and more about why you married someone who doesn't understand basic game mechanics."